Hi guys, Goffy here, and today I want to talk about a lens that I just cannot take off of my cameras. Since the minute I bought it, it has been basically welded to the front of my Leica M11. I've genuinely been struggling to take it off. One last one before we head off is print your own photos. I'm really bad at this, so since we moved into the new house, we don't have anything up on the walls. Claire has been nagging me to print some photos, and I've been struggling because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I didn't know what two prints would go well with each other. So Claire in the end just picked them herself, and I am so happy with how these two prints look. So just a quick reminder, print your own work. I promise you we are going to go back to this lens review. I'm going to go get in the car now. So I bought a Leica M11 a few months ago. It was a camera that I'd wanted for a long time, and I finally bought one. But at the time, I only actually had the 35mm and 50mm summilux, and my favourite focal length by far is 28mm. So I really wanted to return to 28mm at the same time, with ultimately the aim of getting a 28mm Summicron in the future, but I wanted one for now. Just a little bit of a stopgap lens to see me through. Now from a Voigtlander perspective, I've owned lots of their lenses before, including the 28mm Ultron V1. Now that lens to this day is probably still my most used lens. I had that on my Leica M240 almost exclusively for 5 years. So I decided what better way to kind of continue that onwards then. Let's take the 28mm Ultron V2 and give it a whirl. But yeah, importantly, this is an MX5, so we have to get the roof down, don't we? It's kind of the rules, especially when it's as sunny as it is today. So then, let's talk about the design of this lens, because this is one of my favourite things about it. The lens itself has 10 elements in 7 groups, and it weighs just 230 grams, which for a reasonably wide f2 lens is reasonably light. Now the one I've got here is in silver. Now for me personally, when it came to buying it, I wasn't too fussed because I bought it on the used market. To be honest, it was more about what came up at a good price rather than the colour. And when this silver one came up, I was a little bit hesitant, but I do have silver M11 and a silver M6, and I absolutely love how it looks. The colour match between the two is very good. Now one of my favourite things about this lens is this aperture ring. It's kind of hard to describe, but it feels kind of dampened but very precise at the same time. I actually think this feels better than any Leica lens I've ever used. The focus throw on the lens feels pretty good as well. It has that like firmness but preciseness that you look for in a lens like this. Now one thing that I'm not too fussed about is the fact that this lens does focus a little bit closer than that 70cm rangefinder limit. It goes all the way around to 50cm, which is good if you don't mind using the EVF. For me, I don't really like that feeling of being right near the 70cm limit, and then sometimes you feel like you go past the rangefinder, and I don't really like it. Personally, I think I'd actually prefer it if the lens didn't have it. From a design point of view, it has that kind of vintage look, even though it's not a vintage lens. And you know what? Over time, I've become to really love that. I tend to prefer the more modern look of a lens, but the kind of like cone-shaped look of this lens is something that I've really gelled with over time. From a build quality point of view, I have absolutely no complaints when it comes to this lens. I absolutely love shooting 28mm. I definitely have a soft spot for the focal length, and then when you pair it with the M11, you get all of this cropping capability as well with that 60 megapixel sensor. Now I haven't done anything that scientific, but for me and my use case, I definitely think this lens is resolving them 60 megapixels and actually making them usable. Another thing that I love about 28mm is it's really wide, but not too wide that your portraits start to look a bit weird. For me, it's kind of on that limit of where portraits are still fine. Now for me personally, I actually really like the fact that this lens is f2. If I could, I'd actually swap all of my Summiluxes for Summicrons at the moment, because I've come to realise that I actually prefer the small size over that little bit of extra speed, and f2 at 28mm is still enough separation for your portraits for them to have that like pop and stand out look. The other thing that I love about 28mm is you can easily shoot it from the hip as well. Set it to f8, zone focus, and you barely miss. So for me, I definitely have a soft spot for the 28mm focal length. If you've been wondering what all the little numbers mean down at the bottom of my images, that links to my stackable preset pack. This image up on the screen now is the raw, then if you apply basic adjustments 2 and then tone curve 1 to the image, you end up with this final result. It's my way of editing my images using what I'm calling my stackable presets. So yeah, if you want to support the channel and you're interested in them, there's a link down in the description. Do you ever think you have a good idea but it ends up just being a bit rubbish? Well, we're going to talk about lens performance, and I just jumped out from behind these trees whilst I talk to you about different things about it. And I think I'm going to end up showing it to you. So yeah, let's talk about lens performance next. And let's start with shooting wide open. Shooting wide open at f2, I find this lens performs exceptionally well. Here's some portraits of Claire up on the screen, and center sharpness is genuinely incredible. I've actually found myself putting some negative clarity into a lot of the portraits I take to actually put some softness back in. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again, I would much rather it was this way round, that my lens was very sharp and I added some softness than a lens not being sharp at all. Is it as sharp as a summicron? I don't know, I haven't used one, but at what point does it stop mattering? And then I guess we get to the corners. When it comes to the corners of an image wide open at f2, there is a little bit of softness in the corners. I don't really know who it is that is shooting things with like subjects in the corners at f2, but it's not me. So I don't really find this ever being a problem. And when you stop the lens down to something like f5.6 or f8, it is incredibly sharp across the entire frame. But what does the bokeh look like? Well, at f2, it's obviously not going to be the best lens for this. I actually find though for portraits that the background separation is more than enough. However, when it comes to like bokeh balls and things like that, I actually quite often struggle to find them. I tried to take some images earlier to show it to you, and well, this is what they look like. It's not all that prominent, but again, for me, I don't really care. How much you're going to care about this is kind of up to you. Like I said earlier, I'd actually much rather now a slightly slower lens, but a much smaller one, than a faster one that might help me get that little bit more background separation or that little bit of extra light in that personally I don't really need. Then I guess we get to vignetting. This lens definitely does vignette wide open. It is easily fixed in Lightroom, and again, how much you're going to care is going to depend on you. I kind of like how it looks in portraits, but then you do find in just about everything else that I do find myself just adding a little bit of kind of negative, do you call it negative vignette into my images to kind of brighten up those corners again. So in summary then, we have got ourselves a lens that from a design point of view, I absolutely love. I love the color, I love how it feels, the focus throw feels great, the aperture ring feels better than any other lens I've ever owned. Then we move on to the performance, and the lens performs just as well as, again, just about every lens I've ever used. Wide open, it's very sharp in the center, a little bit softer in the corners, but by the time you stop down to f4, f5.6, things are exceptionally sharp. So if we've got a lens that looks great, and then also performs great, it should be super expensive, right? But no, the price is £600 as well. So what is there to not like about this lens? And to be honest with you guys, that's kind of the conclusion I've come to. This was supposed to be a stopgap lens, but at the point that it did everything I could ever want and more, but it kind of leaves me thinking, why would I ever want to spend lots of money on a summicron? So this lens has quite literally saved me from spending £2,000 or £3,000, and especially when silver lenses, I didn't realise this when I got a silver camera, but silver Leica lenses, they tend to be limited edition, so the 28mm summicron is actually a very, very expensive lens if you get it in silver. So I do think that closes out today's video. I absolutely love this Voigtlander to the point that it has stopped me buying the Leica equivalent, even though I now have the funds to do it. If you've enjoyed this video, please do not forget to like and subscribe, and I'm super interested to know what you guys think of this new format. It does require a little bit more effort my end, but I've had enough of just shooting videos at my desk, and hopefully being out and about has just added a little something to it. Let me know down in the comments. It'd be really great to get some feedback. Thank you guys for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.